Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to the Honey Bunches of Goats podcast. I'm your man Kyle Ayala. I'm over here with my brother right here.
Raul, what's up, guys?
We got KJ, you already know.
My brother thinks he's suave.
KJ Ayala, my bad.
Yeah, he thinks he's suave. But anyways, guys, welcome to our third episode of the Honey Bunches of Goats podcast.
Clap it up, guys.
Yeah, clap it up.
Episode 3.
Hey. Bang, bang, bang. So, this is our third episode already. You know, we're actually, a bunch of lazy Spanish people actually putting our minds together, working hard, But anyways, we are here covering the world of sports, primarily focusing on boxing. But for the most part, we're covering everything in sports. The sports world is open to us, and no topic is beyond our grasp. And, a bunch of other hyperbole and crap to make us sound all good. Yeah. Anyways, guys, third episode, how y'all feel?
Great. Many more to come. We're learning through the process, but we're having a good time.
You?
Never felt better. Just trying to get more comfortable for you guys and, do my thing.
Yeah,
like always.
Well, I mean, my brother's, again, trying to be OD suave. Don't worry, kid. We have video.
It comes naturally.
We have video now, so now you can do the LL Cool J lip thing. Anyways, guys, hey, so we have a couple of topics that we wanted to cover today.
Yep. Excited about all this, guys.
So just let's jumping off into our first topic. I sent you guys the ESPN top 25 under 25 list. Mm-hmm. The ESPN recently posted an article detailing the top 25 boxers who are under the age of 25. We took a look at it earlier, and it's pretty interesting. I would say that there's a couple of boxers on that list that we've covered already in the past. We got into detail about the Twitter beefs in our previous episodes. Kind of cheesy, honestly, in my opinion, especially since all of them are professional boxers. But to each his own. We saw we saw 25 names, but primarily, the top 10 are the ones that our casual fans best know. And to be honest with you, we've probably caught a couple fights of the other fighters on the list, but we're gonna primarily focus on the top 10. So do you guys want to go from 10 down, or do you want to start from
let's go 10 down.
10 down.
I like 10 down.
Agreed.
Okay, 10 down. So KJ, pull it up. Who is our number 10 fighter on this list?
Number 10 fighter on the boxing top 25 under 25 is going to be Erickson Lubin, whose record is 22-1. He has 16 KOs, and he's 24, and he's a junior middleweight contender.
Okay, so hey guys, we actually covered it in the previous episodes. Erickson Lubin, right? He was viciously knocked out in the first round back in 2017 against one of the Charlo brothers. Either Jamel or Jamal. This is bad boxing analyst talking here because I always forget which one's who. Who's fighting at 154 again? I think that's Jamel. Jamal is fighting at 160, right?
Yes. It definitely was Jamel Charlo.
Jamel. Okay.
Jamel.
We were actually there at Barclays, like we said before. We watched it live. Lubin, he was a prospect. He still is a prospect, but he was a very green prospect. 2017, he took on a tall task of a proven commodity, in Jamel Charlo, and he got knocked out. He made one mistake. He's a lefty fighting a righty in Charlo. He made the one mistake of staying in the pocket, but just dropping his head. And actually, to be honest with you, Charlo, the way he connected with him, he connected with this nice, he stepped in with the jab, and I believe he came down with this hybrid hook uppercut.
Correct.
That caught him. It was almost like an uppercut, but because Lubin was ducking so low, he caught him flush with that uppercut.
Correct.
And with his full body force, because Lubin was dropping down, and then and Charlo was moving in with that jab hybrid uppercut hook combination. and just landed flush on Lubin's chin.
That's right.
So, but right now, he's rebounded. He has a couple of wins under his belt. No notable names, I would say, other than Charlo. But for the most part, he's back in the title contention picture, and he's progressed as a fighter, but that's hard to determine since his resume is so light. Besides that, Charlo lost.
Yeah, and I think for all of us, we could really relate to this and agree to this. He was potentially even rushed to this fight for his age, and experience, and him being a prospect to take up of a line of a monster of Jermell Charlo. I don't think it was the best decision for his promotion and PBC, but he, like you said, he rebounded. The whole fight, let alone, I remember being ringside. It was such a high energy kind of fight, even though that
was slated to be the best fight of the night.
Yep,
honestly,
agreed.
And to be honest, I remember it was a triple header. We talked about how bad the Joshua Lara fight was, and then it was the Charlo Lubin fight was the one that I guess everyone was looking forward to, because at that time Lubin really created some buzz around his name. Despite being, I think, only 21 years old.
Yes, and one thing that I remember clearly is you were mentioning the breakdown on how he got knocked out. I was ringside for that fight.
Yeah, it's solid, right? It was hard. It was solid.
It was, but to be quite honest with you, what distracted all of us at ringside was the two camps. It was very heated. They were during those first two rounds, they were just exchanging words, screaming at each other,
brawl,
and then
right?
they had that little scuffle towards the end of the fight. So it's so
you think
funny.
that could have distracted him, possibly?
Maybe the beef surrounded prior to that fight. Who knows? But maybe down the road, potentially a second fight. Who knows? But I'm just looking forward for his progression.
Yeah, definitely. Who does he have any? I believe he has a couple. He has a future fight coming up, right?
It doesn't say here, but it does say that he does have 3 KO wins in the 4 fights
since the loss.
Post the loss.
Oh, okay. Well, so he's rebuilt his career from that knockout loss. I mean, he was
showing adversity.
Yeah, I mean, fighting through adversity. I
apologize.
But yeah, he vicious knockout comeback. He's 24 or 25 years old, and he still has plenty of time. So who's the number 9 fighter on this list, KJ?
Okay, number 9 fighter, boxing top 25 under 25 would be Daniel Dubois. Is that how you say it, correct?
Yeah, Daniel Dubois. Yeah, Dubois. I believe he's a heavyweight, correct?
Heavyweight contender.
Yeah.
He's 14-0, 13 knockouts, and he's only 22 years old. Okay,
well, I've seen a couple of his highlights. To be honest with you, there's a lot of heavyweight contenders that do have some, that do have some promise. Dubois, along with Joe Joyce from the UK. I think both of them are from the UK, right? Yeah. So they're 2 heavyweight prospects who, who are, I won't say on the cusp of a title shot, but certainly in the picture. You never know if any of the top 3 fighters kind of have a falling out and they need a replacement, just in case there's any issues. You can argue that Dubois and Joe Joyce are on that short list. So if I pulled up his boxing rec, and again, I've only seen a handful of his highlights. Pretty athletic fighter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I won't say impressive because he really hasn't fought anybody really. But hey, he's on the list. Right now he's, I think, 14-0.
14-0, correct?
Yeah, and
with 13 knockouts.
So I mean, but we can only go by
Yeah, in his situation too, like you said, the top 3 heavyweights and so many talented heavyweights currently now. There's no need to rush him.
I think it's more top heavy. I think the division's more top heavy. Other than besides the top 3, which we discussed before, them being Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, and Anthony Joshua, who actually we'll be covering a little bit later on.
Correct.
We know that Usyk is probably that dark horse contender,
yes, for sure.
like we were talking about in the last episode. And we have Pulev, who, like I said, we're going to cover later on, because he's actually fighting Joshua in December, I believe. I got to double check the information on that. But, Dubois, saw some highlights. He looks good, but, with such a light resume, we can't put any, like, oh, yeah, he's the guy to watch,
You like overall fully credit.
Yeah, we can't give him full credit for being 14-0. This is boxing. We all know that,
of course.
They're built up. It's unlike the UFC where, maybe, a couple of losses early in career.
I think for the most part, it just makes sense to label it as a work in progress.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully he'll make a step up. Is there any future fights coming up for him or not?
Future fights for
Daniel Dubois.
I believe it's Joe Joyce.
Oh, they're going to set him up with Joe Joyce?
Says they're scheduled for October.
Oh, okay. So then that's going to be each other. I would say that's each other's first real test.
Yeah.
They're both prospects and, heavyweight prospects that I guess they decided not to wait. I mean, it would be a reasonably exciting fight for British fans. For American fans, not so much, but for British fans who follow boxing, definitely
hardcore.
would be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who's number 8 on this list?
So number 8 on this list, it would be Jaron Ennis.
Jaron Ennis, I've heard his name. I've seen highlights. Got to be honest with you, don't know much about him. I know that I think he fought on Showtime, I believe.
A Philly fighter.
Philly.
He's one of the up and coming Philly fighters from that group of boxers that are coming up. Welterweight.
He's a welterweight?
Welterweight.
Okay. Well, I mean, I should know
contender.
this.
Yeah.
I should be knowing this.
25-0, 23 knockouts.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's go.
He reminds me of younger of Crawford.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. He has those similar skills.
What's his? Wow, I'm blanking out now. Jesus.
Terrence
Crawford.
Terrence Crawford.
Yeah, you
yeah,
said
yeah.
Jamal Crawford. I was like, oh yeah. We both blanked.
Yeah,
It's okay. It's been a long day, guys. That's why we got our
Sports.
coffee right here.
Yep.
But yeah. So I mean, really, he reminds you.
Yeah. Similar.
Of
He has similar styles
Okay.
to Terrence Crawford. But
I'm looking at his boxing rec, and honestly, I don't recognize any of the names other than, well, I mean, he used to be I believe a lightweight contender. Mike Arnoutis. But he was a Greek fighter that I think Arnoutis was fighting years ago. I think it was like 10 years ago. He was fighting as a contender for like, I think 140, 147, 135. Yeah, see, so I remember the fight against Ricardo Torres and the fight against Kendall Holt, which is 2006, 2007. So he was a legit contender around that time. And over time, age, I guess, crept up on him. And then he lost against Victor Ortiz, Delvin Rodriguez, Demetrius Hopkins, Danny Garcia, and Chris Algieri he also lost to, Josecito Lopez he lost to. So really he's just become like cannon fodder at this point. Arnoutis, but that's besides the point. Jaron Ennis, hopefully we'll get to see more of him. The welterweight division's stacked right now, so I don't think he's gonna get a title shot anytime soon. But someone to watch. So.
Yep.
Who's the next one? Oh, I'm sorry.
And talk about the welterweight prospect division. The next guest will be.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, we got Virgil Ortiz.
So we talked about Virgil.
Number 7.
Yeah.
He like we were talking about. He reminds me of Mikey Garcia if he belonged at welterweight, right?
Yeah.
Very technically sound. Young, reasonably athletic. And he has pop. He has a lot of pop in his hands.
And in both hands, actually. Yeah, both hands.
Yeah. A lot of people. He made some waves because he wanted to call out Errol Spence, I believe.
Correct.
And he's pretty young, and so I guess they're taking their time with him. But I think he is on the verge of breaking out. He's probably gonna start. They're gonna start moving him up to fight guys in the upper top 10. I mean, in the lower top 10 of the welterweight division. I think he's starting to gear up for a title run. I would say he probably gets a title shot in 2021, end of 2021. So, I guess we just got to see how the rest of the fights go on with the welterweight division. So, we'll see how it goes. We talked about him. I think he's super talented. He looks special.
Yeah, agreed.
But how special, that's to be determined, honestly.
Yeah, but out of all these Cropper fighters, I'm looking forward to his progression, and he's definitely a superstar in the making.
Yeah, definitely. Does he have any fights coming up, Gidget?
He just recently fought.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that's because we were talking about him. Yeah, he whooped that boy's ass.
Yeah. And Samuel Vargas, credit to him. He's always fighting top welterweights.
Yeah.
He's always down for a scrap. And
he's a gatekeeper. He's not talented or anything, but he fights the guys coming up. So he has pretty decent names on his ring. Ooh, who's that?
Yep, that was me. Sorry, guys.
Interruption. Okay, moving forward to number 6.
Yeah, so
number 6 fighter on the top 25.
Let's go.
All right. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name properly. Jamie Munguia.
Jaime Munguia.
Close.
Munguia?
Yeah, Jaime Munguia.
Jaime Munguia.
So
35-0. That's a
yeah,
lot.
well,
Professional fights?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So for somebody who is so young, he actually has I would say, fairly decent resume. Since beating Saddam Ali.
Saddam Ali at the Garden.
Yeah, he whooped him too.
Yes.
He whooped him.
And keep in mind,
he's a big 154 fighter.
Yes, and keep in mind, guys, he was not the favorite to win this fight. He was an underdog. I don't know how were the percentages, but nobody at the Garden predicted that fight.
And this is after Saddam Ali beat
Miguel Cotto
in his farewell fight.
Correct,
yeah.
correct.
So Saddam Ali was actually creating a lot of buzz. I think he lost a fight against what's his name, Jesse Vargas. He got knocked out by Jesse Vargas.
Correct.
And then he was tapped as Cotto's last opponent, which he surprisingly won. So he was, he created a buzz for himself. And then Jaime Munguia just ran through him.
Yeah, and think about Jaime, him being from Tijuana. These fighters coming from Mexico and that northern part of Mexico, they're tough fighters. And the reason why he has this record, so much fights and so much wins, is they start very young. So his experience, even though he's super young, he has an experience for days.
Yeah, actually, I mean, he created a buzz after he beat Saddam Ali. But to be honest with you, I remember his next fight against Liam Smith. Liam Smith fought Canelo for the title a couple years ago as well. He won that fight, but he didn't look special. He looked sloppy. And sometimes as a fighter who can take a punch and work, and he likes to work to the body. He's a typical Mexican fighter. He can take a punch, pardon me, and he can really bang to the body. Sometimes he falls in love with his head hunting too much, and sometimes he looks kind of like just sloppy sometimes. I remember that fight against Liam Smith. He looked a little sloppy.
Yeah.
He ended up fighting Dennis Hogan, who I believe just recently. Yeah, just recently, Dennis Hogan, I think, fought. Yeah, Dennis Hogan fought Jamal Charlo in December last year. So, and he lost by TKO. So, that's one name there. And then he fought Gary Spike O'Sullivan. And Munguia fought Gary Spike O'Sullivan in his last fight, won by TKO. I think it was in like the 10th round.
11th round?
It was a late knockout.
11th
yeah.
round.
Gary Spike O'Sullivan's always been like a tough and rugged.
Scrapper.
Always scrappy. Yeah, definitely. So, Munguia, he has a decent resume right now. And 154 is loaded. Sometimes we forget about him though, because there's so many names at 154, but they're all at PBC, right?
Correct.
So, and I think he signed with
Golden Boy.
So he's probably on. Oh, he's on DAZN.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he has a decent resume. Let's see how it goes. There was some whispers about him fighting Canelo, but that is not a fight he's ready for whatsoever.
And you know what? Even though him being that young and him being signed to PBC, I gotta say this list of young 25, under 25, personally, I think he has the best resume out of all these fighters.
Yeah, you definitely could say that. I mean,
numbers wise, stats wise,
but
and fighter wise, the opponents he faced.
Yeah,
I don't think other fighters in his position wouldn't necessarily, and even take the risk of taking on a fighter like Saddam, yes, at the Garden, Spike Sullivan, Liam Smith. I don't think they will want it. I think it's more promotion wise they will risk their young fighter taking these opponents.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's a name that's kind of forgotten at 154 because all the names at 154 mostly are with PBC. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe that's the reason why we kind of forgot about him. Like, I remember we brought his name came up when we were talking about it earlier. And I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about Jaime Munguia and that he's a champion, Yeah. So, it is what it is. I mean, he's still young. He has a long career. I don't think he's going to be at 154 much longer because he struggles to make 154.
Weight.
Yeah,
correct.
So he's 6 foot and he's like, he's like, and he's young. So eventually he's gonna mature. His body's gonna mature, and he's eventually gonna have to move up to middleweight. And I think that's gonna be a problem because he just takes too many punches. He has that machismo that he thinks that he can take a punch. But what happens if he starts fighting bangers at 160?
It's definitely that Tijuana style of boxing.
Yeah. I just don't think he has that pop that. He beats you by volume. He doesn't really beat you like knock you out. He just beats you by overwhelming you with punches.
Correct. And fingers crossed, I know just like all these young fighters, especially Mexican young fighters, they just get better with age and experience down the road.
Yeah. Who's next on the list, by the way?
Okay, so moving onward to number 5 on Boxing Top 25 under 25. Gonna be Instagram superstar Ryan Garcia.
Well said.
Okay, so we've covered him in previous episodes and
plenty of times.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of his antics. I'm not a fan of the idea that you're becoming a star because of Instagram, not because of who you fought. I cannot deny he's talented. He's very, very talented. I just think that he is a lot of hype, more than substance right now at this point. But hey, he's positioning himself for money fights. He's positioning himself to get more experience and fight some fighters, with the name. He was linked to Luke Campbell, who fought Lomachenko, I believe last year, or was it last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Okay, so and also linked with Linares as well.
Linares, I know Linares and him.
Linares wants to fight him.
Heated exchanges, Twitter interviews, you name it.
I would love to see that fight because I think Linares can school him. But but at the same time, also Linares also has kind of like a suspect chin sometimes. So
Yeah.
But
regardless, I'm a huge Linares fan.
Yeah. He comes to fight and he has a resume. So
his fight with Lomachenko at the Garden, I was ringside. I was fortunate to see it, and man, you could hear his pop, his speed, let alone. But it amazed me the sound of his pop was even more louder than Lomachenko's at times.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, I mean, him and Garcia, I would
like to see that fight. But I would like to see that fight because I'm a Garcia hater. Although I will say he's really talented. I'm not gonna lie. Ryan Garcia is talented, but he's Instagram hype, and you know how I feel about that.
Yeah, we all know.
Yeah.
Kyle.
I'm the old man yelling at the sky.
You're not alone. I think the majority of people, especially hardcore boxing fans, are on
kind
the
of
same page.
A little bit, right?
Yeah, because in a way you have a big group of following that are not hardcore boxing. Now we're talking about Instagram viewers, fans, YouTube fans, the Logan Pauls, and all these genre of people,
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes the majority of us boxing fans, we kind of take offense a little bit, or it's even harder for us to accept the hype around behind that.
I mean, at the end of the day, boxing fans want to see you fight names, right? And if you don't fight anybody, then you don't get credit.
True, for sure.
Mexican fans have this kind of thing about, Mexican Americans who are, they see as Americanized, and and especially just like Pretty Boy, because they don't, hardcore Mexican fans want to see you fight and like and get into some real good fights and all that stuff, and fight people that are known.
They want to see
Great.
brawls.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want to
They
see
wanna
brawls,
see-
but they want to see your heart. But they want to see your heart again fighting against big names.
And that's what he lacks, because everything else he has. He has the market
he has
skills,
charisma,
everything. It's just
He knows
the
how
lack
to-
of opponents.
Yeah, he knows how to market himself, and he has a disconnect with Golden Boy because he's arguing for more money.
and that's the, I guess, also frustrating part too, because we don't know the situation. We don't know if Golden Boy, aka Oscar, is holding him back from these fights, or if maybe Ryan Garcia doesn't want to take these fights, which it looks like he does. So
it looks like he does. Yeah, so
which he does.
We'll see how it
but
goes.
Who knows?
Yeah, there's a lot of names at like 126, 130, 135 that can make interesting fights there, especially young fighters. So, anyways, next.
Moving onward, number 4 on Boxing Top 25 is gonna be Devin Haney, 24-0. Hold on, 15 KOs, 21 years old, and is the WBC lightweight titleist.
Yeah, well, we saw him was promoted to full-time titleist after WBC for some strange reason made Lomachenko the
Franchise.
WBC just made up another term for a champion because they just want to collect on those sanctioning fees. Like all these damn fucking sanctioning organizations. They how they always trying to make more money off of these fights. So I mean, it is what it is. But Devin Haney is one of those fighters at those lower weights that really making a name for himself. He has a lot of pop in his hands. I think he won I think he's gonna win the knockout of the year. I think earlier this year that knockout. Let's look up his boxing record. It was his last fight where he destroyed that guy with that one punch. Let's look it up.
Fourth round knockout.
Yeah.
Zahar Abdul.
Yeah, I can't pronounce his name. I know who you're talking about,
I apologize.
but I cannot pronounce his name.
No, no, that wasn't it.
That's not it.
Was it? No, was it? I forgot.
But
No,
it was
I'm
in
sorry. It was
November.
last year.
It
No,
was in-
Antonio Moran. That was the knockout. I remember that was Antonio Moran, and so it was last year, not this year. It was last year, May 25th of 2019. I think he won. I think a KO of the year, or he was that was a contender for KO of the year. But another guy whose resume is kind of light. I mean, looking at his boxing rec, Mason Menard, who is kind of a gatekeeper at this point. Moran also gatekeeper. A lot of these young fighters somehow have belts without fighting anybody. But Devin Haney is one of those names that's he's talking a lot of shit on Twitter. He's been called out, I think, recently. I forgot who called him. I think Javier Fortuna called him out. Javier Fortuna called him out, saying that he's an email champion because he was because when the WBC promoted him to full champion and relegated Lomachenko to franchise champion, it was like, oh, so he's a champion now. Okay, I mean, hey, that's the sanctioning bodies for you. So, but I like Devin Haney. He's exciting. He has a lot of pop. And again, he's just one of those names in the lower weights that are there. I mean, he talks a lot of shit, although I do like him better than Ryan Garcia, absolutely. But, we'll see how it goes. It's definitely interesting. Does he have any fights on the horizon, KJ? Do they say anything?
Hold on, let me check that out. It says that he's been linked to British fighter Luke Campbell for his next fight. Maybe?
Oh, so Luke Campbell is being called out a lot.
He's
recently.
busy.
Yeah,
Busy man.
a busy man without a fight, unfortunately.
Yeah, who knows? Knock
Yeah.
on wood, he got something quick.
Yeah,
soon.
yeah. But isn't Haney's top rank, and I think isn't Campbell signed to Eddie Hearn? Or is he signed to? I gotta look that up.
That's a good question.
Yeah, is he signed to Eddie Hearn or is he signed to Frank Warren? We gotta look that up.
It could be Matchroom.
It could be
Boxing.
right. Okay, well we'll look it up. But definitely Haney is definitely one of those names to be looking up. And hopefully we get a big fight.
And an interesting detail too. As of recent, and this is months that I've been seeing him under Mayweather's camp, and him adding that as an influence and getting some knowledge and doing mitts and all these drills with Mayweather himself. Who knows? Maybe we'll see something new in Arsenal, and I'm interested to see what he's up to now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Anyways, who's next?
Pushing forward to number 3. I haven't heard of much of this guy, but his name is Shakur Stevenson.
Again, one of the names at the lower weights. He was the 126 champion. I think he beat Joet Gonzalez for the belt. And then I guess the Corona thing hit. I think he was scheduled for a fight against Mariaga, and then that got canceled because of Corona. So while I guess he was being idle, they decided to move him up to 130. So he is the former 126 champion, moving up to 130 now. And there's a couple of names I think that he's interested in at this point. The 130 champions. I think we have Burchelt. Miguel Burchelt,
the top dog.
Yeah, top dog. Well, one of the top dogs. I mean, he's been on top for a while. He's been a champion for a while. A good banger. Typical Mexican fighter. So I mean, Shakur Stevenson though, he is probably the purest boxer out of those young names.
Agreed.
He's very he's patient. He's very, I would say, I'm not going to say he's safety first, but he's definitely more cerebral than all the other younger fighters on this list. And he just, he seems to have a good grasp of his technical skills and how to use them in a fight. But again, he hasn't really been tested. He's very young, Olympian, him and Haney are Olympians, right? So, it's, gold. He won the gold medal, right? Shakur Stevenson won the gold medal?
Got to do a rain check on that.
Yeah, we'll look it up. Don't worry. But yeah, it's interesting how he's kind of like he's the purest boxer on this list, and he also is just a very disciplined fighter at this young age. But again, he hasn't fought anybody to push him. So I guess we're gonna just have to wait and see. I like Shakur Stevenson a lot, so let's see how it goes. Does it say?
Excited to see.
Yeah. Does it say any future fights that he's scheduled or linked to?
Oh, we were just talking about Miguel Burchelt, Joseph Diaz Jr.,
Jojo Diaz,
Leo Santa Cruz, and Jamal Herring.
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's
I think they want him to fight Jamel Herring. All those 130 fighters are pretty interesting, and see how it goes. I think he beats all of them except for maybe Burchelt, but I think that he also has the technical skill to. It could be either be a long night for him, or it could be a 12-round shutout against Miguel Burchelt. At this point,
yeah,
he's that talented.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, who's number 2 or number 3 we're on now?
Give me 1 second, guys. You said number 2, right? Okay. So
who's after Shakur Stevenson?
Yeah, number 2. All
right.
David Benavidez.
Oh, David Benavidez. I think he's super middleweight, right? 168.
Yes, he's the current WBC super middleweight title list.
Yeah, I think we covered him a little bit too. He beat
Darrell.
Yeah, Anthony Darrell.
He beat the brother.
Yeah, he beat Anthony Darrell to win the championship. That was a great fight.
It was.
The Benavidez brothers, both Jose and him, they're both kind of like brawlers. Like they both have a similar style. They kind of lean on their back foot.
And they're quick. They have the way they throw, very short, fast.
Yeah.
Hooks.
Yeah, they're also. I mean, I won't say they're brawlers, but they definitely are offensive-minded fighters.
Agreed.
So, I mean, that fight with Darrell was pretty entertaining too. It was. I saw that fight live, and I was impressed. I like Anthony Darrell. I won't say he's like a fighter, but he's certainly on like the B level fighters. He's a type of fighter that actually fights more than his talent. His brother is more talented, but I think he was more accomplished than his brother. He actually was. He was a champion, multiple time champion. And he definitely more. I would say more accomplished than his brother, even though his brother was the other Darrell brother was Andre Darrell was actually more talented. But Benavidez, he has some names on his list. Jay Leon Love he's also kind of like a gatekeeper too. But actually I take that back. Actually there's not that many names on his list other than Anthony Darrell.
I think the only potential fight that I see him fighting in PBC will be Caleb Smith.
Really?
Which we know Caleb Smith.
But isn't Callum
Smith, sorry.
Isn't he linked to? I think he's linked to Canelo too.
Yes, but I think Canelo down the road, or even now, I think his more potential fight will be Triple G. He was also, I think, linked to, if I'm not mistaken, Billy Joe Sanders.
Oh yeah. So I mean, he's 168. 160 to 175, all hot names. So we'll see how it goes. I think would I say he's a bright future? I don't know. I think he's fun to watch, but we'll see when he fights against better boxers. Does he have any fights on the horizon, KJ?
Yeah, the two names that are here would be Callum Smith and Canelo.
Okay, yeah, well,
but they're
I don't think
leaning more
he's getting
towards Callum.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna get Canelo. So, well, anyways, who's number one?
So number one on this list,
Drum roll.
we got Teofimo Lopez Jr. Who
Also probably with the probably the second most accomplished fighter. Some people argue he's the most accomplished on this list, but he fought. He has a fight with Lomachenko. Well, actually, now we don't know. That's a topic we're actually going to cover a little bit later on. But
interesting.
But yeah, he fought Richard Comey, which is no easy task.
No,
and he knocked him out in the second round. And this is after a very, very lackluster fight against Nakatani, a fighter who was just seen as like just on the train tracks of the Teofimo Lopez train. And Teofimo Lopez actually had a really hard time with Nakatani, and there was a lot of people questioning, his ability and all that. He had family issues. I guess they said something like his wife isn't well liked by his family, but so he was distracted by it, and then he came back against Richard Comey and knocked him out in spectacular fashion. Short, tight right hand. Both of them were throwing right hands at the same time, and his got there first. So, Teofimo Lopez at 135, he, big time prospect, a couple years ago, and then now he's become a full blown, legitimate champion.
Agreed.
So, let's see, the sky's the limit for him. I think 140 is probably his limit, but we don't know. He has pop. Maybe he can move up, once if he does want to clear out the division, or if he does beat Lomachenko. Then it's like, where is it? Where else do you go? I guess you can go up, go up to 140 and, possibly 147, although I don't think he should. But, definitely a name up there that's one of those boxers that people are starting to notice on a mainstream level. So,
agreed.
Yeah. So that was the list, right? That was the 10.
Was it.
We actually took
the top 10.
Yeah, we took a little bit longer than we expected, on that list. But hey, interesting list. Fun to see where these names go, especially them being so young. Anyway, guys, we also wanted to bring up the next topic that Paulie Malignaggi got fired by Showtime from the broadcast team. He recently was on a interview. And he was talking, he was touching sensitive topics about race and boxing. He was basically saying, well, Katie, actually, why don't you read the quote? Well, what was he saying?
Okay, well, it's pretty long, but from the quotes that I put out, so this is what he said to start the quote. It's not great to have the race discussion because it's going to coordinate division. I don't know if Devin got the memo. It's no longer the time of the African American anymore in boxing.
So, but just also, he was asked about Devin Haney's comments about saying, like, I ain't losing to no white boy, that he put on Twitter, I believe.
Correct.
And I think he was talking in regards to either Luke Campbell or Lomachenko.
Yes, it was Luke Campbell.
Okay.
He kind of disregarded Lomachenko. He kind of said that, quote, I assume he was talking about Luke Campbell, who I think is the more valuable opponent. That
and you're talking about, this is Malignaggi.
Talking about that.
So, and then I think he said that, it's no longer time for the African American fighter. And I believe that he also was elaborating, like, at certain times of boxing history, boxing was dominated by a certain group of fighters. I believe he was talking about, at first it was Irish fighters, then Italian fighters, then it was black fighters, and now he's saying that now Eastern European fighters are coming up. Now, touchy subject, you know, and he was released by Showtime, from the broadcast team. You know, I'm gonna go.
Unfortunately,
I'm gonna go and say my opinion. Honestly, I understand, considering the climate that, you know, we're in regards to race relations in America, that you have to be more careful with your words, and I believe that he should have been more careful with his words. However, I don't think that he was trying to degrade any particular race, especially African American fighters. I think he was just trying to point out that, you know, at least in regards to Devin Haney, that, hey, you know, you shouldn't, you know, say things like he was, I guess, trying to say to Devin Haney, you shouldn't say things like that because, you know, we are in an era where, you know, the Eastern European fighters are starting to take the mantle away from African American fighters as like some of the best boxers in the sport right now. Do I agree with him? No, I still think that the African American fighters are still, you know, there up top, because there's, you know, there's always, you know, contender champions of African American descent that are, you know, always there. Floyd Mayweather being, you know, the best, you know, recently the best African American fighter, you know, of the past 2 decades. But do I think that he said anything wrong? Like, if you just tell me straight up, I don't think he said anything wrong. I just think that he should have been more careful with his words. Yeah. And do I believe he should have gotten fired? I mean, I don't believe he should have gotten fired, but I do understand why he was released, because, you know, you have to be a little bit more sensitive in terms of, you know, race discussions. You know, even though he was talking about boxing, you have to be more sensitive towards race discussions. And I guess could you say it's an overreaction? Possibly. But I think if you go look into his words, he was merely just trying to point out that, you know, you know, Devin Haney, hey, you know, don't say that you're not going to lose to no white boy, because, you know, there are times that white guys can beat African American fighters, you know, but that has nothing to do with your race. It just really has to do with your skill as a boxer. And two, you know, Eastern European fighters are really, you know, starting to become
come up.
They're going to become as the standard of in the boxing world. So that's how I feel. You know, what about you? What do you guys feel?
So, on a personal standpoint, just talking and starting this off just by saying I met Paulie maybe twice. One time ringside before he did the commentary with Showbox. Cool guy, very nice, very approachable. Yeah. And we know that he's very smart when it comes down to boxing. Second time around, it was with all of us. Like, might have been after the Sean Porter versus Keith Thurman. Yeah, you remember.
Yeah, we saw him. Was it outside or just out? Right after the fight.
So we were parked. We were getting inside the car, and surprisingly enough, we see Paulie walking down the street. And I believe you, Kyle, you asked him, hey, so what are your thoughts on the fight? Yada, yada. And, man, he just, off his time, 5 minutes, just gave us a rundown on the fight. And it was a very interesting conversation. Now, moving forward, his comments and his statements, I think he should have used different words.
He should have had more discussion with his words.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's a very sensitive, very hard subject to really talk about. And look, if you look at the top 10 pound for pound list, it's based on so many different fighters from different countries, backgrounds.
I don't think he, like I said, he wasn't. I don't think he was demeaning any particular race. I don't think, like, for example, he wasn't saying like, oh, you know, African American fighters are bad or no longer good. You know, he wasn't saying that, but he was saying like they're not going to be as dominant as they used to be, considering that they have Eastern European fighters like starting to make a name for themselves. And I understand. I'm not African American. You guys aren't African American, so I you know, I can't speak on behalf of other African Americans, but seeing the words, I can say that, hey, you know, he was just, I guess, trying to make a point, although not fully well thought out because of his words. But I think he was just trying to make a point that, hey, you know, Devin Haney, don't say, oh, I'm not gonna lose to no white boy, when, you know, there's plenty of white fighters that are very good, you know, and it has nothing to do with the fact that they're white, and you know, and Devin Haney is a great fighter, and it has nothing to do with the fact that he's black, you know. You know, he's a good fighter. There's great fighters of all colors, and yeah, I mean, yeah, there may be like errors in boxing that will be that can be dominated by I guess a certain group of fighters, and that does happen, you know, for whatever circumstances, you know, historical circumstances, you don't know. But yeah, I think he was trying to make a point. I think he should have chose his words more carefully, and I don't think he should have gotten fired. But I understand why Showtime didn't want to engage in controversy. So, you know, I think they should have been more patient with him. But I understand where Showtime is coming from, and I don't agree with it 100%. But you know, it is what it is. You know, like we all have to be careful with our words, especially in 2020. Me, I'm not a sensitive person. You know, we can all say, you know, we are. You know, we don't necessarily like engage in politics, except for the fact that I say fuck Trump. But and trust me, it has nothing to do with like me disliking Republicans. I just don't like him as a person. But yeah, so we focus more on sports. But if politics get involved, then so be it. You know, we're not afraid to cover any topic. But yeah, you know, I just think that we should look more into the context. And, you know, Paul is from Brooklyn. And, yeah, he's Italian. And, yeah, there's a historical context of Italians being racist. Absolutely. But I think people who really know Paulie, I guess they would say, like, nah, he just treats everybody the same. Yeah. I don't think he really looks at race. I mean, he looks at race because he was asked, you know, he's asked to comment about Devin Haney, and he was asked, you know, he was giving his opinion on the history of boxing.
Agreed.
But I think most people who know him, especially being such a big figure in Brooklyn boxing.
I have friends that are mutual friends with Paulie, and they have nothing but great things to say about him.
Yeah.
So
and he was nice enough to us, you know, like, you know, to give us his time. He's known to give people his time to offer boxing quotes and whatnot. So I don't believe his words and his heart comes from a negative place or a place of racism. I just think that he was just trying to make a point, and unfortunately, because he wasn't focused on the words that he was trying, you know, finding the right words to portray what he was trying to say, I believe that, you know, he paid for it. Do I believe it? Like I said, do I believe it was fully justified? No, but I understand why, and I think we all can understand why, in terms of, you know, Showtime being a large multinational company with a big, you know, with the American following. Obviously, you know, they would want to stay away from any type of controversy. Hopefully, they can come to some type of reconciliation. Paulie can clarify his words, and I guess, you know, I think most people won't say like Paulie is racist, but, you know, again, from what I heard about him and from what I've seen personally, you know, I don't think he's a racist at all. I just think he's just a guy who just, you know, didn't choose his words wisely. You know?
Yeah, you know, we're in the end of the day, we're humans. We make mistakes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So just like
everyone has said something they probably regret, like, at some point in their life. Everyone has, no matter what color you are. We've all, you know, everyone has made probably like some regrettable joke or some regrettable comment. You know, not necessarily from a place of you know, negative attitude, but probably either trying to make a joke or trying to make a point. But I think that we all have to look in ourselves and realize, hey, you know, everyone makes mistakes. And if it was different if he was trying to say like, oh yeah, you know, black fighters suck, you know, which clearly is not true, you know, but and he wasn't saying that. No. So, you know, I think that we have to observe words. We have to, you know, we have to be careful with context, you know, and understand where people are coming from when they say something, you know, especially a quote like that. But, you know, it is what it is.
It is what it
and,
is.
You know, Paulie, I wish him luck. Like I said, I hope there's a chance for a reconciliation at some point with Showtime. Yeah.
Agreed.
Anyways, guys, so now I got to pull up our handy dandy notes. So anyways, we talked about earlier, Lomachenko Lopez. The news came out today that the fight possibly ran into some hurdles.
Over money, right?
Over money, yeah. Clearly, we're in the age of coronavirus. You know, there cannot be any more gate revenue because we can't have crowds in attendance. So there is gonna be less money in all sports, period. Lopez was offered 1.25 million, and he feels like he deserves more. Raul, you were talking about, hey, you got to secure the bag as a boxer, right?
Yeah, so my thoughts on this subject is there's two sides of this. Mm-hmm. The fighter side, where you look at, like the quote Kyle just said, securing the bag. In other words, you're sacrificing, you're disciplining so much of your time for the sport. You have a family, you have your personal stuff going on,
and you have only so much time in this sport either. This is
correct.
This is not an old man sport.
No.
You only have X amount of years, unless you're Manny Pacquiao or Floyd Mayweather, but
yeah, genetic freaks,
or Bernard Hopkins. But for the most part, this is a young man sport.
Yeah. So while you're still in it, I'm a huge fan of fighters getting as much money as they can in the moment. Go get it, because I fully understand the pressure, the intensity, and just basically the blood, sweat, and tears of the sport. Now, that's one side of this situation. The other side is we all know what COVID-19 has done to everybody. Their life is affected, financial, etc. I know us Americans, we actually either we lost our jobs, or we took pay cuts, or we just took less days of work. Mm-hmm. And this is not just boxing. This is most all sports.
Everyone in the world.
Everyone in the world is affected unless your name is Jeff Bezos.
Pretty much.
Or Elon Musk. Only the super rich made money somehow during this entire pandemic, apparently. But pretty much the entire world lost money. Mm-hmm. So, it's understandable that Top Rank cannot provide all that financial windfall as normal for fighters now, because there is, a loss of gate revenue. There is a loss of, concessions to, it's a loss for the locations that they normally conduct fights in. So there's money lost, there's money lost in this. And, at this point we have, fights going on with no crowds, and that's just the way things got to be. Now, Lopez, clearly he's a champion, proven commodity, and he deserves respect. Absolutely. But you're fighting Lomachenko, and you don't know when you're going to get that opportunity again. And he's been clamoring for this fight for a while, him and his dad, for the past maybe year and a half.
They've been very vocal.
Yeah, have been very vocal about securing a fight with Lomachenko. This is your opportunity. Yeah, you got to secure the bag. But in my personal opinion, you beat Lomachenko, you become a superstar. And you don't have to worry about securing the bag, because then now you will be the A side.
You guys think he's afraid?
No.
He's definitely not afraid. I think
Okay.
he's
Just putting it out there.
Yeah, I think, because you know what it is. I think Lomachenko, he's not at 135. He's not a power puncher. He's just a supreme boxer. And I think for a lot of these young guys, they think that they have enough pop, or they have enough talent to overcome that. Whether it's foolish or not, but they think they can overcome that. And Teofimo Lopez, with his proven power at 135, he thinks that he can connect. Like, he thinks like, oh, if Linares dropped him, I can definitely knock him out. Doesn't exactly work like that. But is he justified in a certain extent? Yeah, he's justified with that power. He can knock out anybody at 135. So
Listen. I have another question for you guys.
okay,
Right?
okay.
All right. So you said he would be getting 1.25 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the offer from Top Rank, right?
Yes.
Is that the most he's ever made?
I think
Would
so.
that be
Yeah,
the most
yeah, that's
potentially?
clearly,
Yeah.
definitely the most fight he's ever made. And you got, you're right. There's two sides to every story. I'm all for boxers securing the bag. Hey, 10% got to go to your trainer. You got to pay sparring partners. You got to pay for training. You have all these expenses leading up to these fights, and you need to secure X amount of money, and not only to just to cover those costs, but also, hey, to pay the bills at home. And I understand that his quote was, "Hey, I'm just trying to feed my family." I mean, 1.25 million. Not many people get the opportunity
Yeah.
for that.
Sheesh.
Yeah, but
That's a lot of money.
But at the end of the day, he's probably gonna get like maybe 50 to 60% of that. He's gonna see of that money. You know, and maybe 50%, maybe even less because of taxes and all that stuff. So you know, it's yeah, you know, it's 1.25 million, but it's significantly less that he's gonna make after expenses and after taxes. So I get it. I absolutely get it. I guess you're balancing. I would say, in my opinion, you know, considering coronavirus and all that stuff, hey, bro, you knock out Lomachenko, you become an A-side. You become a superstar.
You become a cash cow yourself.
Yeah, and not only will there be money, you know, for a rematch, but say you beat Lomachenko, right? Or not even knock him out. You don't have to rematch him if you knock him out. But if you do, you can make a lot of money in a rematch. And if you do beat him in a rematch, then everybody from 130 to 147 are going to be calling your name, because now they know I can make money fighting Teofimo Lopez. So it's about balancing it out. You know, I would say bet on yourself and take the fight. You know, for one, you know, hey, maybe, hey, negotiate for 1.5. You know, get a little extra money. You know, but don't make any outlandish demands that's gonna, you know, alienate Top Rank and just tell them like, okay, hey, you don't want the fight, we'll give it to somebody else. You know, there's plenty of people wanting to fight Lomachenko.
Yes,
and that's for a reason.
And I'm curious, what does Bob Arum has to say about all this?
Oh yeah,
I was gonna say both sides had a lot to say. So, you know, Bob Arum, who's the Top Rank CEO, his quote started off with, "We explained to them we have no gate, no closed circuit. I mean, we're willing to pay him a big price, but again, I'm not going to lose millions of dollars on an event because he thinks he's worth more." End quote. That was by Bob Arum.
All right. Well, I personally think that's very cold-blooded, but again, it's a business. He's the CEO, so hey, only he knows about his financial, what the company's going through these hard times. But hey, man, just make the fight happen, the fight that all of us hardcore boxing fans wants to see, and hopefully it does come to
fruition. Yeah, absolutely. You know, moving on to our next topic. So they, Bob Arum also spoke upon making Pacquiao Crawford, which would be one of the top fights in boxing. Period. Pacquiao, you know, 8 division champion.
How old is Pacquiao? 60?
He feels like it sometimes, but he has the Filipino genes,
Pacquiao,
so he looks young.
Let's go.
Filipino power. Filipino power.
It's in the Filipino rice, man.
Yeah.
We're half, so you
Because
know how
he
that
talks
goes.
like this, he makes him dangerous. He talks like this. Well, I don't want to hurt you, but anyways. So this is not the first time they try to make the fight. They try to make this fight a couple of years ago when Pacquiao was 100% with Top Rank, and for whatever reasons they weren't able to make the fight. Now, you know, Crawford being one of the pound for pound top 2, you could argue him top 3 fighters depending on who you ask. And Pacquiao right up there as well. But Pacquiao, bigger name, more money, the bigger star in general. So it's far from being made. This is what Bob Arum says. There was rumors that it was close, but Arum said it's far from being made. Considering that Errol Spence is busy with Danny Garcia right now, which we'll actually cover also next. I think it's a great fight. It's almost like a tournament where if you have Pacquiao versus Crawford and then Spence versus
Garcia.
Danny Garcia. So I think at the end of the day, Pacquiao. I'm a Pacquiao fan. I'm biased, absolutely. The favorite is clearly Crawford. You know, simply because he's younger, and you know, I don't think he's being. Crawford has his resume is not all that great, even though he was an undisputed champion at 140, champion at 135 as well, and I believe he was also a 130 champion. I'm not sure, but you know, he's clearly the favorite. But in terms of boxing style, hey, you have Pacquiao who's a lefty and Crawford who's a switch hitter who likes to fight lefty most of the time. Pacquiao hasn't fought a lefty since 2008, David Diaz. If the fight does happen, I mean, man, that's gonna be a fight. And if Crawford decides to fight lefty most of the time, Pacquiao, for some strange reason, he likes to be more offensive when he's when he's fighting another lefty. From what I remember from the fight, he just loved throwing his right hooks and the left hands, and he was a lot more offensive in that fight that I remember. So, and Crawford being a supreme boxer, he's there. He's he has some nasty in him. He's a mean dog in the ring, and not only that, but he's also an excellent technical boxer. How would you see that fight going, Raul?
Well, as we all know, Pacquiao, he's a beast.
Beast.
At what, 60 years old, KJ?
60, 65.
If anybody's seen Coming to America, Pacquiao was 125 years old when he fought Terrence Crawford. But go ahead.
You know what? I'm going to go out and say this. I think Pacquiao, even though he is 40 years old, if I'm not mistaken, he has the tools to be Terrence Crawford, man.
Pacquiao has the tool. He's getting older, and he's not in his prime. But damn,
we all saw what he did against Keith Thurman, and Keith one-time Thurman. We know again he's not a walk in the park either.
No,
he could try to outbox you as well, and he could switch it up and try to do the one time, which is knock you out.
Yeah. And the thing about Crawford is he gets so much credit, and rightfully so. But if you look at his resume, not impressive. Not. I mean, other than the fact that he was undisputed champion at 140, could you say he's really impressive? I mean, he has a great resume, but it's not. I mean, he has a good resume. It's not great. He has a good resume. Like the biggest names on his hit list is probably Yuriorkis Gamboa, and that was like 2014, 15
that was a while ago.
At 135. And then Amir Khan, who we all know is shot. Even though he's a fun fighter to watch, he's
great
shot.
Fighter.
So
Pacquiao.
You got Pacquiao?
Yeah.
What about you?
I got Pacquiao too. I mean, listen, most boxing insiders are going to choose Crawford because
Us, not this table over here.
I mean, I'm biased. Raul is more neutral and more in terms of Pacquiao.
He's half Filipino. Don't let him.
He's Filipino heart. He's a Filipino by association.
Filipino.
He's Filipino by association.
Well, I consider myself half Filipino.
Yeah.
Come on.
And so, I got Pacquiao simply because I think even though Terrence Crawford is a incredibly smart fighter, and I think that he has a pop. I don't think he necessarily has more pop than anybody Pacquiao's fought. No. And on top of that, sometimes Crawford likes to mix it up inside, and Pacquiao loves to mix it up inside. I think Pacquiao's way faster on the inside. And, even though he, eventually dominated Mean Machine Kavaliauskas.
Yes, his last fight.
His last fight. He got dropped on the inside.
Yes,
by Kavaliauskas.
And you notice with that fight too. What I did notice, and all his fights, I do tend to see this. He takes a little bit of time to adjust to certain fighters and their styles. Mm-hmm. When in the other case, Pacquiao, with his experience, he doesn't necessarily have to do it. Yeah. Maybe 1 or 2 rounds, but other than that, he's gonna come at you full angle swings, nice crisp jabs, and I think that right there, let alone, is gonna be one of those biggest factors that his experience, is gonna definitely play.
I mean, Pacquiao is a great tough fighter. His toughness shows out more for me every time I see him fight, and I am biased as well. So I'm taking Pacquiao.
He's been doing this for nearly.
He's 41 years old, by the way.
Yeah, he's been doing this for now, going on his 4th decade of boxing. Champion in the late 90s, made a name for himself in the 2000s, became a superstar around 2009, carried his name over to the 2010s. Yeah, he had a couple of setbacks, very questionable decisions, and the knockout loss to Marquez. But the thing is that, like, for example, he got knocked out against Marquez in 2012, and everyone was saying he was done. And he added more championships. Then he had that very controversial loss to Jeff Horn. And everyone's like, oh, he's done. Then he goes and beats, I mean, you could say Lucas Matisse, is already, past his prime, but he beats up and retires Lucas Matisse, right? And you could say that, with Adrian Broner, that, he's overhyped and, doesn't show up in big fights. Well, I mean, eventually he dominated, a fighter who's very, very very fast and very crafty. And then he fights Keith Thurman, who at one point was considered the number one welterweight in the division.
Yeah.
Even though maybe he had a layoff with injuries, and he didn't look all that great against the fight before Pacquiao. Josecito Lopez. But Pacquiao, he was exciting in all the fights, and he eventually got to a point of clearly winning. Even though like the fight against Thurman was, you could say it was close but clear.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I had it. I think 8-4 for Pacquiao.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here.
When he fought Keith Thurman. So Crawford, great fighter, very technical, nasty, mean, and he loves to mix it up. But compared his resume to Pacquiao, it's nothing that Pacquiao has never witnessed before,
Yeah, I think that's when...
Other than being a lefty, or other than being a switch hitter, But, I think Pacquiao is been so experienced and fought so many big fights. This is not even like... this. You can argue this wouldn't even be like a top 3 fight for him of his career. You could argue De La Hoya was more important. Mayweather was more important. You can argue all 4 of the Marquez fights were more important in a certain way.
So let me ask you a question. And I think I have a clear answer with this too. Okay. But my question is, will you say Crawford holds a much power hit compared to Marquez?
Well, I mean, that would be hard to determine. But I remember watching a video of Tim Bradley talking about comparing Marquez's power and Pacquiao's power. He said Marquez can bang, and we all know Tim Bradley can take a fucking punch. He fought against Provodnikov, and he was knocked silly, and still won that fight. One of the best fights I've ever seen. Too. Yeah, one of the best fights of all time. But definitely you could argue like top 25 fights of all time. And he's fought a lot of fighters. He's been banged. He's been banged on. He's fought guys with different types of power. He said Marquez is a thudder. And despite Marquez being, in the lighter weights and all that stuff, power always, power is the last thing to leave you. So you can argue that Marquez, as he got higher in weight, that his power got better. And Pacquiao fought him 4 times, So, and then, and Crawford, even though he has all these knockouts and stuff, I mean, he knocked out Amir Khan, who's been knocked out before. He beat all those names at 140, but none of them have impressed before or since. And Yuriorkis Gamboa was the only name, probably the biggest name on his resume, and that was 5 years ago at 135. So I mean, it's nothing that I don't think Pacquiao has never seen before. Do I say is a guarantee that Pacquiao wins? No, not at all. Because Crawford is the rightful favorite in that fight, but is he the favorite, like clear favorite? Hell no. No one's a clear favorite against Pacquiao. But anyways, moving on to the other welterweight fight that Spence Garcia. It's official. It's gonna happen.
Signed, sealed, and delivered.
Yeah. So great fight. PBC guys going at each other. Danny Garcia versus Errol Spence. Danny Garcia, proven tough fighter. He has a great resume. He's fought a lot of names. Hasn't won all of them, but never really been in a lopsided fight. Even though he should have lost against Mauricio Herrera. I don't care what anybody says. Herrera clearly won that fight. Even though it was close, he clearly won that fight. But Danny Garcia has fought all types of names, and at 140 and 147, and he's a solid fighter. He's the definition of solid fighter. I've never really seen him been like terribly hurt. Never seen him been completely outclassed. He's always there, and he always makes a good fight. And not only that, but is a sturdy fighter, solid power. Solid technical skills. He doesn't necessarily have any real weaknesses. He's just a solid fighter. Nothing special other than his left hook. But
mean left hook.
And he's going against Errol Spence, who is along with Crawford the class of the division. Southpaw with power, body, nasty to the body, and he always. He's there to win. He's not there to outbox you. He's there to maul you. He's there to beat you up. He's there to win the fight clearly, even though his last fight against Porter was very close, very, very close. I think the talent level is just the determining factor, but the X factor would be, hey, Spence is recovering from a car accident, a serious car accident that he got lucky that I think he only suffered a broken jaw, or
he walked away with just
some
nothing
scratches
major,
and nothing major. So I mean, yeah, even though he wasn't seriously injured, it's still a life-altering event, and you don't know how you react from stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we don't know if Spence is going to be the same fighter. We don't know. He says he is, and he seems to carry himself that way, that like, everything's fine. But we don't know until fight night. We won't know until fight night. But I think that the determining factor is that the talent level. Danny is right here, and Spence is above him. A lot above him? No. But certainly significantly above him in terms of talent level. But, hey, Danny Garcia, his resume is deeper, and he has more experience, even though he's not that old. So I think Errol Spence takes it. I think it's a decision. I don't think anyone get knocked out. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be super exciting, because we thought the same thing with Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman, and even though it was a good fight, it wasn't as exciting as we thought it was gonna be. That's, I guess, the way Danny Garcia fights. He doesn't brawl. He tries to box you and tries to hurt you with his punches.
Yes, he likes to set up that left hook. And the thing about Danny Garcia, his boxing style against Keith Thurman was just mostly trying to outbox him.
And even though it was a close fight too, it was a close fight. I thought it was close but clear, very close but clear that Thurman won that fight.
Yes, the difference with Errol Spence Jr., he's gonna stand there and brawl with you.
Yeah.
He's gonna go toe to toe. Go to the body, give you good combinations, land to the head.
And he's a lefty.
Yeah.
Errol Spence is a lefty, which is always trouble for right-handed fighters in a way. And he's an extremely talented lefty. So it's actually interesting. The welterweight division, you can argue, is dominated by 3 southpaws. Even though Crawford is a what you call it? He's a switch hitter, Pacquiao, Crawford, Spence, all left-handed fighters.
Yes, and adding on to what I was saying, Danny Garcia, the factor that I see that could be his default, he's very flat-footed. He doesn't really like to box going back.
Yeah, he doesn't have any bounce, but he's very always solid foundation when he
correct.
fights.
And going up against a fighter like Errol Spence Jr., you're gonna need that. You need to be on your toes.
Absolutely.
So with that little factor input into that, I think Errol Spence will.
Yeah, me too. I think Spence wins a unanimous decision.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyways, we're just gonna cover a couple of fights. Joshua Pulev. Not exactly the fight that we want to see at heavyweight, but since it's alleged that Wilder and Fury are going to be fighting their third fight next, Joshua needs a dance partner, and it's not 100% confirmed, but it's almost concrete. He will be fighting Kubrat Pulev in December. So Joshua got lost against Ruiz, got knocked out by Ruiz, came back and won the belt, outclassed Ruiz. You can argue he won all 12 rounds, and it seems like he's come to grips with becoming a heavyweight champion. He lost that fight against Ruiz because I don't think he was mentally 100% there. When his original opponent was Jarrell Miller, Big Baby Miller,
yes.
Or Big PED Miller.
Yeah.
By the way, he got popped for PEDs again.
Second time around.
I think this is like his fourth, in his history is like his fourth or fifth failed exam.
This was around May where they announced that he was caught with illegal substance.
And the thing is, I like Big Baby Miller, but honestly, if you're gonna get caught using PEDs constantly, you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah, before all this scandal and this news, I seen Big Miller live. Cool guy, met the dude. Nice
just
person, humble.
Don't take steroids, boy.
But it's
don't
hard.
take steroids.
It's so
Don't cheat.
It's so hard to root for somebody that cheats in any sport or just in general. Cheating is not cool. It's. I think the best way I could say is it's fucked up.
Yeah, and you know what? He cheated a lot of people from a payday, not only from the events that had to be rescheduled or had to be changed, but he cheated his team because his team was counting on all that money from, training him and all that stuff. And then now, for nothing. But anyways, we got sidetracked. Yeah. But Joshua Pulev, I've seen Pulev fight. Nothing special. He's just a heavyweight who's there. He's a good fighter. He's nothing great. Joshua wins. That's all I got to say about that. Joshua wins. Knockout, most likely.
Knockout what round?
I'll probably say 8th round. I just think that Joshua is in a better mind state now. I think he's come to grips with becoming a heavyweight champion of the world. And I think that he lost to Ruiz, and I think that kind of alleviated the pressure of being a champion. And I think it just put everything in perspective where he's like, yo, for me to be a champion, I need to take this shit seriously, and I need to fight smart. I can't always try to make it look spectacular simply because I'm Anthony Joshua. The most important thing is protect the belt, and then secure big fights. But you got to protect the belt first. And I think he came to an awakening that, hey, I got to take this shit seriously, fight my fight, and however I win, I win. Yeah. I just got to win.
Yeah, and we saw that second fight.
Raul, who you got?
Same. He said it best. Yeah.
You got him knocking out too?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're just going to quickly cover, there was a fight actually last week against two Thai legends. We have Sorung Visai versus Amnat Ruenrong. So, Sorung Visai was the man who beat Chocolatito and then knocked him out in the second fight. Even the first fight was close, and then in the second fight, he knocked out Chocolatito. And he's always been in good fights. Since he became a name, he's always been in good fights. So, he fought against countryman Amnat Ruenrong. And from what I remember, Amnat Ruenrong was that guy who fought that Chinese fighter, Zhu Shiming, who had a lot of hype. He was a Chinese Olympian boxer, and he had a lot of hype. And he was actually beat Zhu Shiming, kind of ruined his train, and Zhu Shiming eventually retired. But Amnat Ruenrong experienced a fighter at the lightweight, at the lower weights. And, Sorung Visai, from the highlights I saw, he looked a little rusty. He looked a little sloppy, but secured a clear win. And, on to bigger and better things. Hopefully, he's looking for a third fight with Chocolatito. He's also looking for a rematch with Juan Francisco Estrada, who took his belt. That was a good fight too.
Yes.
the Sorung Visai versus Estrada was really good.
Olympian Estrada.
Yeah, and that. So now he's back on the. Now he got a win in a big match in Thailand, and hopefully I would love to see him fight. First, I would like to see him fight Estrada first. See if he can get his belt back, and if that doesn't happen, then he can try to get another fight with Chocolatito. I don't think there's a need to fight for a third time unless Chocolatito wants to get his revenge. Be like, no, I don't want to go out like that against you. So, we'll see how it goes. We're going to be switching gears. We're actually going to cover the NBA now. The NBA restart is officially in full blast.
Yes, sir.
My brother, he's a big basketball fan. I mean, we all are. Gedris will tell me, like, what's up? Have you caught any games?
Of course, yeah, definitely. Let's talk about Thursday opening night for the NBA restart. We had the Lakers versus the Clippers. The Lakers took that one 103-101. LeBron taking the last shot. Like always, my favorite player.
Impressive.
Yeah.
But as far as stats, Paul George that game had 30 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Made 6 3-pointers, shot 55% from 3-point range. Kawhi Leonard had 28 points, shot 44% field goal percentage, but Davis had a big game. Davis had 34 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 8 for 19, 42%. LeBron had a iffy game, you know what I mean? He only scored
LeBron
16
don't give a
points.
shit about these games. He's waiting to get to the playoffs. That's all it is.
He had a double-double, though.
By
He
the
had a
way,
double-double.
real quick, guys, we're going to have our first break because that coffee that you guys got me has got my bladder like on full blast, ready to let it rip.
Same.
So, guys, if you don't mind,
Brief intermission.
we take a quick intermission. We're going to let the camera run. So if you hear any farts, it's not bad. I'm going to try to keep it to a minimum, But, gas is a bitch. I don't have Tums on me, so we'll see how it goes. But actually, no, I just got to pee. So just give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. See if that works. We're back on. Quick bathroom break. This is the greatest thing about being on a podcast. We don't have to worry about being live because we are too broke to be live. But anyways, so going back, my brother was covering the NBA rundown. The restart is officially all on full blast. Yeah, KJ. What were the things that you were?
I was getting to the second game of opening night. I apologize. Give me 1 second. Okay, so yeah, we had the Jazz versus the Pelicans. Excellent game. So myself, Jazz took it 106-104. Close game. Ended up being a great game towards the fourth quarter. As far as stats, Donovan Mitchell had 20 points. Mike Conley had 20 points. Clarkson off the bench, who I love, great player, half Filipino by the way, had 23 points
quarter
as well.
Filipino, I think.
Quarter. I apologize.
Still counts all the way.
For the Pelicans, Brandon Ingram had 23 points, shot 7 for 20. Zion, who was limited the whole game, limited to 15 minutes, had 13 points. And JJ Redick, surprisingly, had 21 points. And
surprisingly, JJ Redick,
he gets buckets, man.
He when he gets hot, that boy can score.
No, I always in the beginning, of his career, I kind of disliked him because
he was from Duke. Who doesn't?
No, he just didn't have much of a spectacular, exciting game. I feel like because he's just a shooter.
But a lot of people just assumed that he was just gonna be one of those white basketball players.
Yeah, whack.
That he was great in college and just
was
very, very, very underwhelming in the pros. But honestly, he carved out a really nice career.
He's a shooter. He can
that
shoot
boy can
his life away. He's a great shooter. Definitely above average shooter. Let's talk about another game. James Harden versus Luka. That was it went overtime. The Rockets took it 153-149.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, then they
Excellent
blew
game.
the lead, right? They were
Yep.
The Mavericks were I think what was the percentage that they were gonna win that game? 90%, I think. And I think it was a missed field goal by Houston, and it was a putback and all that stuff.
It was an excellent game.
Yeah. Hey, but you know what?
Harden scored 49.
Oh, damn.
Had 9 rebounds, 8 assists. Westbrook went off, 31 points, 11 assists, had a double-double.
Well,
no, 11 rebounds, I apologize. 8 assists.
I'll tell you what. I was talking shit about the season, not because any fault of anybody's own, but because with coronavirus and abbreviated season, and a restart and so many people dropping out, I don't consider it a real season. I still kind of don't, but you know what? It's great to have the NBA back. It's just great to have sports back and just to see, competition back in play. So coronavirus fucked up a lot of things, but at least the NBA is back, and people are can get their mind off of whatever problems they may have in the world, so they can catch the games and just enjoy sports competition on the highest level.
Exactly.
Anything else?
Well, another big game happened on Saturday. We had the Pacers versus the 76ers. Man, crazy game. TJ Warren had a career high 53 points. Shot 9 for 12 from 3-point.
Wow.
Jesus.
He's a okay player, but watching the game, I mean, shot a high percentage. 20 for 29 for field goal.
Sometimes, those players, good players, just go off for random, scoring outbursts.
He probably had that Space Jam magic water, huh?
He did.
Or he probably had wings.
Jordan juice.
Or maybe Lou Williams gave him some of the wings that he got from the strip club.
From Magic City.
Magic City.
Another big game, which happened just recent Sunday.
Every game's a big game at this point. Right?
Yeah.
Just to have the NBA back.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, KJ. Basically, teams also, they're trying to fight for a clinch playoff spot, right?
Yes, correct. Most of them have. The only teams that haven't clinched the playoff spot would be the Brooklyn Nets, who are sitting at the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. Then we got the Orlando Magic, who's sitting right after them at the 8th seed. And in the Western Conference, the only team that hasn't clinched is the Memphis Grizzlies. So,
wow.
It'd be funny if you're already out of it, but you still have to finish the rest of the games. you're probably just like, yeah, just screw it. You know, I just want to get out of this bubble already.
Nah, man, the Western Conference is huge competition.
Top, right?
Yeah, you got
Crazy.
everybody fighting for that 8 seed.
Yeah.
Portland, San Antonio, New Orleans, Phoenix, Sacramento,
Wow.
all playing for the 8 seed.
Yeah,
I'm surprised Portland is fighting for the 8th seed.
yeah.
Me too.
I mean, they're dangerous too because hey, you know, it's you know, they got. Wow, I'm blanking out right now. Holy crap! They got CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard, and they got Nurkic,
Carmelo,
Gary
Whiteside.
Trent Jr.
He
Gary
had a
Trent
decent
Jr.
season, but whatever. But I mean, normally I'm really into the NBA, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a little bit harder for me because it's you know, the coronavirus and all that stuff. But you know, I mean, let's see where it goes. It's a wild time, honestly. This is a really wild time for the NBA. But you know, it is what it is. At least we got a couple games in. You know. So any other what you call it? What was the other games that you happen to catch?
And Sunday, we had Giannis play Harden against the Rockets. The Rockets took that one, 120-116.
Malaka, Greek freak
Ella,
in the
Ella,
house.
Ella Malaka.
That's my boy
Ella.
right there. That's my boy. I love Giannis.
Hell
Shout
yeah.
out to all my Greek friends. You know who you are, even though you're not probably watching this right now, but you will eventually, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, he lost. He took the L. He had 36 points.
Yo, why you
18
trying to hit on my
rebounds.
boy, bro? Why you trying to hit on?
I mean, I love Giannis, but I kind of favor Harden a little more.
Man,
I'm a Harden fan.
until the playoffs start, and then he'll go
Yeah,
for like
he's a
he'll
chump
go
in the
like
playoffs.
2 for like 63.
He better step it up this year. I'll tell you that.
I mean, he better because like he.
Pivotal year for him.
I mean,
To me.
I mean, okay. Even if he doesn't win the championship this year, I personally would give him a pass because you know it's not a real season. But yeah, you know, I mean, Harden's a choker at the end of the day. I mean, I listen, he's one of the best players of all time, but he's also a choker. So I mean, and I'm not talking that I'm not saying that as a person who's just like, you know, Monday morning quarterback type of thing, you know, where I'm just like, oh yeah, you suck, man, and I'm just like an average Joe. You know, he's amazing to watch.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how he plays the game of basketball, especially with this type of style during this type of style of play in the NBA, this era. You know, he is probably the poster child for this type of play in the NBA. Him and Steph Curry, but he has to win a chip.
He has to step it up, man.
He has to win a
He
chip.
has to
At
step
the end
it
of
up.
the day, he has to win a chip because of, as bad as his playoff performances were in previous years and how bad he's choked, I'll still never forget that Ginobili swatting the ball out of his hands. You remember that a couple years ago? Ginobili just was like, "Give me that!" Like Harden shook him, and Harden was about to go for the three, and Ginobili's like, "Nah, son," and just takes the ball from him. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that awful game where he was like, and I think it was a what you call it elimination game. And he went like
Trash.
4 for something. He only shot like 11 shots. He definitely froze. But you know what? Listen, I'm an average Joe that plays pickup games in the park, and I'm not even the best player.
Nah,
so
we get busy. We get busy. We play ball
I play defense on an elite level, and I can shoot. And,
at an elite level.
But I'm old now, so that's all I can do. I can't do my I'm an elite defender, okay? Despite my 240 pounds.
I'm Mexican, so I just cheer from the sideline.
No, you don't. You play. Remember, you rebound and you play defense.
Defensive style.
The
Come on,
boxing skills come into play in
Yup.
the defensive basketball
man. They go
court.
hand in hand.
The great thing about playing with Raul is that you know you're gonna get more shots because he's gonna be like, "Nah, son, you got this."
Yeah, I'm always dishing out the ball.
Dishing it out.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, the NBA is in full swing. What would you say is the what teams do you want to see in the championship? Who do you want to see?
I mean, it's still early to determine that. You know what I mean? We
But-
still have a couple more.
Don't even think about who do you want to see in the championship
Favorites, basically.
in the finals. Who do you want to
In
see
the finals? Ooh.
Yeah.
In the Western Conference, I'm taking the Lakers.
versus who do you want to see? Not who do you think. Who do you want to see?
No, that's what I'm saying. I want
matchup
to
do
see
you
the
wanna see?
Lakers. And Eastern Conference. I got to check my notes. Hold on one second.
Well,
I'm gonna go. Go right.
well, yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing Lakers against a Boston series in the finals, or we could switch it up from Boston to Milwaukee. Milwaukee
Ooh.
Lakers.
LA versus Milwaukee is the one I want to see. Though, but the team I think is gonna win I think Boston. Boston's gonna win. I just think they're so under the radar and they're so good that they're just like on autopilot right now up until the playoffs start. So, and they were playing great. You know, they got rid of Kyrie Irving. You guys know my opinion on Kyrie already. You know, I mean, he's mercurial. Wow, English class. But and he's kind of a pain in the ass. That's why when he was with Boston, like they didn't seem to have team chemistry. Like before he got there, they were a great team. They were a great team playing together. And then after he left, they became a great team again playing together because they have Kemba Walker now, and he's really a great team player. So, you know, I would like to see Boston win. I would like to see Kemba Walker get a chip. You know, boy from the Bronx, New York, represent. Yeah. And, you know, I would love to see Kemba get a chip. He got a NCAA championship, and hopefully he can get a chip too.
Yes, a very impressive run he had too. I still remember
in that Big East final with or was it the final or was it?
It was a final.
I think he was.
Yeah,
he took that step back jumper and made the buzzer winner.
Yeah,
the Husky,
right?
Yep.
UConn. Yeah. He carried that squad. He literally carried. Like I don't think
he's a bucket.
The last time I remember when I saw him in the the Big East tournament and the NCAA. I remember they were not seen as a team. They were almost out of the tournament. Because they were like they weren't even number one seed or anything like that in the tournament. They just thought that, you know, oh, they're okay, whatever, they're okay. And then Kemba Walker went off in the Big East tournament, and then he went off in the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And I never seen someone carry a team like that since Carmelo Anthony in 2003 with Syracuse. That was the last time I saw. I mean, when I was watching Kemba Walker. Last time I saw that was 2003 Carmelo Anthony. But yeah, it would be nice to see a chip, you know, definitely. Anyways, guys, we were also talking about how coronavirus affected the NBA. MLB got their season on track, and it's already been really brutal. Already 3 teams had to cancel games.
It's been tough.
Yeah,
it's been a little sloppy.
Yeah,
a little sloppy, messy, weird.
And, very weird.
Yeah, you know, the Marlins, the Cardinals, and I think there's another team. I forgot which one.
Marlins, Cardinals, who else?
I know there was 3 teams so far that had to postpone games. And it's really tough. You know, I feel bad for the MLB. And even though Rob Manfred is not exactly anyone's favorite MLB commissioner, I do feel bad for him in a way. Because he's trying to get the season on track, and it seems like players are kind of like ignoring certain protocols or just forgetting. And he actually had like a stern meeting with the Players Association saying like, listen, I'm going to have to cancel the season because the players aren't following the rules. And I understand his frustration, and I understand he's not the most popular guy in baseball. But as a commissioner, your job is to get the season on track and get it through, you know. Yeah, you can't hold the hands of all players and staff that are involved in a Major League Baseball. And, you know, it's not a good look for him either. Even though it's not his fault, it's not a good look for him if they have to cancel the season. And he's the one saying, like, yo, I'm going to have to cancel the season if we have more outbreaks. So it's tough. I feel bad for MLB players, you know. Like, dude, what do you do in a situation like this with that many people involved? And they're not doing a bubble. Which I understand because 25 players on a roster, 30-something teams, 60 games each. Like, you know, it's hard to keep track of every single person in the organization. You can't just keep track of players. You got to keep track of coaches, training personnel, medical staff. You know, you got to keep track of everybody.
Well, overwhelming.
Yeah, and it's not Rob Manfred's fault, even though he will get the blame along with the rest of Major League. You know, the MLB took a hit because it took so long for them to agree to a schedule in the first place, and all that like negative news about how there might not be a season because of the disputes with the contracts, and how they're going to be paid. The players left a kind of like a black mark on the sport. They reversed it by getting the season on track. But now, because of coronavirus outbreaks, they seem like they have to pause certain teams from playing.
You think they could have done something similar to what the NBA did with the bubble, like with the sports
here's
complex?
The thing, but the NBA are only doing 10 games plus the playoffs, right? The NHL is already in the playoffs, right?
Okay.
I think they just started their playoffs, and they need to play not a full, but they need to play a 60-game abbreviated season. 60 games. That's over. You can argue the period from now till September. Plus, you got to do playoffs. Plus, it's not the NBA where it's 12 players on a team plus the training staff and all that stuff. You have 25 players. There's just in general more people involved in each of these organizations.
It sounds like more of an organization and more thought into prepping for this. Yeah.
It's a tough situation for all sports leagues, but right now the MLB is having a crisis with the coronavirus. We all are, but they're having a crisis with getting the season finished. Do you think they're going to make it through the season? Me personally, no.
I know last podcast I said I wanted to be positive and say yes, but this week with so many new details coming out, I don't.
Yeah,
no,
and then imagine if like a couple of teams already have to be quarantined, right? And then if you're a player, like fuck, I don't even want to play seriously because I don't even know if we're gonna even make it through the season. That Braves pitcher, I think he messed up his Achilles. So imagine if they don't make it through the season. He's going to be like, damn, I tore my Achilles. I possibly might mess up my career for a season that didn't even, that doesn't even count. So
it's hard to really invest into a season that's unpredictable for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like as a player though, you can't think about stuff like that.
You can't because you want to play, but
naturally it's inevitable for you to get hurt while playing.
But once you get hurt, then all that regret comes in. You don't think
True.
Kevin Durant regrets coming back to play in the finals?
Oh,
now
that's different.
It's always hindsight is always 2020. So that's what it is at the end of the day. But hopefully they make it through the season. I don't think they're gonna make it through the season, but it is what it is. But hey guys.
I think that's the quote of this podcast. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Life and anything.
The Yankees are doing well. That's all I'm happy
Judge
about.
is smacking the ball, so that's good. But anyways, guys, look, we're getting towards the end. We have a new segment for this new podcast. We have two new segments, and we'll be adding more segments to keep the show fresh and entertaining. But we have two new segments that we're gonna introduce. The first one being the Mas Puta list. Mas Puta. Shout out to George Lopez. But we have our Mas Puta list. Remember, anytime you say Mas Puta, you have to say it like that, okay?
Yeah,
okay,
of course.
Ready?
We can't let George Lopez down.
Yeah, all right. So we're all gonna say it at the same time, all right? We're all gonna do it at the same time. Ready? Mas Puta list. Okay.
That was a little loud, guys.
Yeah, I know. That's we're gonna have to change the audio levels in post production. But anyways, so okay, we have our list for our Mas Puta.
First on the list,
Yoenis Cespedes.
Oh.
AKA the Cuban broken leg. AKA, do we know where he is? AKA,
true.
We're looking for him.
AKA.
He didn't show up to the game.
AKA, oh yeah, I'm not playing no more.
Random.
So he is first on our Mas Puta list. So just as a refresher, Yoenis Cespedes didn't report to the Atlanta Braves game that the Mets were playing. Mm-hmm. He missed last season. He has an extensive injury history, especially since signing that big contract with the Mets. And I guess he was looking forward to this. Well, I mean, we all thought he was looking forward to the season to kind of break out of this injury funk and play, even though it's an abbreviated season, a full season of MLB baseball. He didn't report to the game, didn't previously notify the Mets organization. And when they went to go look for him in his hotel room, he just packed his shit and left. And then it trended on Twitter like, Yoenis Cespedes is missing. But not like seriously like, oh, like he got murdered or anything, but like, no one knew where he was. No one knew what was going on. Comes out the next day that he opted out of the MLB season, even though he played a couple of games already. And it was like, I'm not playing anymore.
Played pretty shitty as well.
Yeah, so he's like, I'm not playing anymore. He did hit one home run, I think, right?
161 batting average.
I remember
Only had 5 hits.
I know he did. I think he might have had 1 home run. I don't know. But listen, we all can agree that opting out from playing sports for medical reasons, coronavirus, is fine. Yeah. You know, we're not gonna put blame on Yoenis Cespedes for, you know, thinking about his safety first, right?
True.
But we can all agree that he's on the mas puta list.
Correct.
Because, bro, you reported for the season. Okay, you knew that there's coronavirus concerns before the season started, and you knew how the optics looked in regards to you always being injured. You signed a big contract with the Mets, and you can never finish a season. And, you know, people were genuinely excited to see you. Now, if you wanted to opt out before the season, okay, but he didn't do that, right? He didn't do that. He played a couple games, and now let's say he's worried about his health and the health of his family, which completely understand. But notify the organization. Don't just bounce. Especially an organization that paid you. I mean, I'm not like the type that will take the side of professional teams that make billions of dollars every year. I mean, that are worth billions of dollars, you know. You have responsibility as a professional to notify your organization that you will not be partaking in the season prior to them having to look for you, you know? And not only that, but you know how Mets fans are. We've seen you injured. We barely, well, I'm not a Mets fan, but like they've barely seen you play, and they were excited to get you back for the season, for you to play a couple of games, not great, and then be like, I'm done. There's a certain lack of professionalism that is involved that is just distasteful in a way.
Very.
And I like Yoenis Cespedes. I've always liked him.
I'm a huge fan.
But, bro, you mas puta for conducting yourself like that, you know? Yoenis Cespedes?
Mas puta.
Mas puta.
Mas puta. Number 2, Lou Williams. Now, I think we can say he's mas puta, but at the same time, you know, Lou Williams likes Magic City wings. Like, I mean, we can blame him for lack of professionalism, but you have to admit that's pretty goddamn funny. Titties and wings, bro. I mean, yo, it is what it is. But yeah, you're a professional. You know that you have to be in the bubble and take certain protocols, and you decide to get wings from Magic City.
I mean,
I believe him that he actually likes the wings, because down south, usually the food and strip clubs are really good, which is kind of weird because in New York, you know, would you ever eat food at a strip club?
I mean, what was the story though? Was he in
He
Orlando?
wanted wings.
He flew out to Atlanta when he wasn't supposed
Was
to.
it Atlanta or Miami? It was Atlanta?
I mean, Atlanta is where Magic City is.
I don't know, but all I
it was in
know,
Atlanta.
It's
Yeah.
definitely
so
Atlanta.
all I know is that, bro, you could have gotten wings from anywhere. You wanted Magic City wings. But you know what? Lou Williams, I mean, he is a man with 2 girlfriends. So,
My type of guy.
But he gets, listen, he gets on the mas puta list simply because of lack of professionalism. In terms of the actual optics of this, outside of professional conduct, I mean, it is a pretty goddamn funny
I'll tell
story.
you this: did the Clippers need him against the
Oh,
Lakers?
yo, you had a Spanish moment. The Clippers.
Yeah, the Clippers. Well, hey, it is
Let's-
the mas puta.
Yeah, mas puta.
So-
from now on,
so-
let's just say Clippers. We're gonna say Clippers from now on.
Well, remember, this is the mas puta, so I'm trying to have my uncle George Lopez proud of me.
There we go. Yeah, we're gonna represent George Lopez.
Yes, but let me ask you a question: did the Clippers needed Lou Williams
Did they need him? Of course.
against the Lakers?
He's,
that one
he's
game.
a valuable piece. To
Of course.
the
And what
Clippers
was he
organization.
doing? Quarantine. Why? Because he had wings.
From
So
Magic City.
So I'm pretty sure he's beating himself up for that. You know.
I don't think so. I just think like he's like, shit, I got caught. But I mean, it is what it is. But Lou Williams, mas puta. Even though I don't. I mean,
goes to
I'm
show
mad.
you
Too
how
mad.
serious the NBA is taking the coronavirus.
Rightfully
No, good,
so.
good.
Yeah,
They should.
rightfully
They
so.
should.
Which
They should.
I applaud them.
They should.
Applaud
So-
the NBA for that.
Third for mas puta list. I'm gonna let Raul take lead on this. because he is a full-fledged Jets fan. So
Jets.
Gang Green
Raul,
in the house.
All
on
right.
our Masputa list, please explain our
Yes,
third entry.
as hard as it's gonna be for me, but I'll unfortunately have to say the Jets as our
And as a Miami Dolphins fan, I thoroughly enjoy this.
Well, look, it's been very depressing as a Jets fan for the last couple of years. We had signs and little times where we thought or we were going the right direction, but
By the way, thank you for taking Adam Gaze off our hands, just FYI. But anyways, continue. I'm sorry for interrupting.
yes, but to get to the point now, Jamal Adams was traded earlier this week, last week, matter of fact, to Seattle. The Jets in return got 2 number 1 draft picks and a 3rd draft pick, a 2021 and 2022 first rounder, and a 2022 third round pick, and they got their safety in return, Seattle safety.
You know, a lot of people have argued the compensation for Jamal Adams. I say that's pretty decent.
It is.
I mean, but you know what? Depending on who you ask, people have said it's a terrible trade, and some people said it's a decent trade.
Look. And regardless of a trade of your franchise safety, it was a very good scenario. I'm not gonna say it wasn't, because it was, but it just goes to show us New Yorkers, especially the Jets fans, like me, we can't have anything good going on for us. I don't think players will want to come play for us, and let alone this decision, I don't think is going to make young players be fully committed to us. We've seen this in the past, and we're seeing this now. I don't think it had to do anything with new management.
Mm-hmm.
I
think Joe Douglas is a pretty decent.
He's
GM.
great.
Yeah.
He's great. He's done so far. He hasn't disappointed.
Can't say the same about Adam Gaze as a head
No.
coach.
And you know what? He's pretty new as a coach. Even prior to the Jets, him being with the Dolphins.
was his first head coaching job. I think he coached for like 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But
He did horrible.
I just think as a huge Jamal Adams fan and a Jets fan, the way he impacted the defensive side of the game for the Jets was very, very on top. It showed every weekend, and to lose that in return to 2 draft picks, yes, it's good, but it's not guaranteed to get a franchise player.
You don't know what you're going to get with that
Exactly.
draft pick, you know?
It's a gamble.
And don't forget, remember, C.J. Mosley, they newly signed C.J. Mosley, opted out of the season 2.
Correct.
So they just signed him.
due to COVID.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
Yeah.
the Jets right now are like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure like every team is dealing with opt-outs, and rightfully so. It's perfect. Like if the players don't feel comfortable and they want to think about that, absolutely. I think we're at the point of the point in sports where, you know, we won't blame players for not playing. Although there is some of that going on with people who are a little bit insensitive to the coronavirus crisis that's happening in our world right now. But you know, just the Jets. Of course, the Jets. That would happen with the Jets. You know.
And look, one of the main players that this similar situation happened before was Darrelle Revis, where he put up incredible numbers. He not just put up incredible numbers on the defensive side, but he was named Revis Island for a reason.
Yeah.
He stopped every top name wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a top defensive back.
No, for sure.
During his prime.
And with that being said, with the negotiations, he decided, you know what, not to stay. He left, and what did the Jets do in the long term? They re-signed him back from the Patriots. But this was when his prime was past prime. I don't want to see the Jets in that same rotation with players like this.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you lose, and Jamal Adams only been with the team 3 seasons, maybe
3? No, 2.
2 seasons. Oh wow.
2.
So I mean, you know, you hate to lose a piece like that. The Dolphins traded Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Oh man,
you know, and that pissed me off.
He's a beast.
Actually, that was one of the initial when the season first started. I actually lost faith in Brian Flores for alienating Minkah. Even though now Brian Flores has proved to be a great coach. You know, I would have loved to have Minkah, but you know, at the end of the day, they're still safeties. And even though I think every position in football is important. Like, you know, and safety is not exactly the easiest position to fill, like running back. But, you know, if you're going to pay a lot of money, you got to, especially in the NFL with a hard salary cap, you have to be careful who you give money to.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to be caught in salary cap hell and then have players who are just on bloated contracts at the end of the day. So, I mean, but still, he was only a Jet for two seasons,
2 years.
and one of the best safeties in the league. So, you know, the Jets are mas puta.
Yeah.
Seahawks. It's hard for me to say this, but until I see improvements, mas puta.
And last on our mas puta list, I hate to say it, but so Rutgers men's football, they recently had a coronavirus outbreak where a majority of players have tested positive for coronavirus. Now, we all could have assumed that it was because maybe practicing or stuff like that, you know? No. It was all linked to a party that they most of the players attended on campus or off campus, but regardless, it was a Rutgers party. A number of players went to that party. Must have contracted the virus from somebody that was attending the party, and then I guess, you know, infected other players on the team and staff. So I'm gonna keep it short. Rutgers men's football, and I'm not, you know, college kids. Hey, I you know, they want to party and shit like that, but mas puta, because you might have ruined your season. We don't even know if, I mean, don't get me wrong, we don't even know if college football is gonna actually happen. But I mean, if it does, I don't think it is. But I mean, you just fucked up. You know,
that's a huge.
You just fucked up. So yeah.
They're saying multiple staff members contracted the virus too. So
yeah, there you go.
Other people
it's selfish. I get the term. You know, like, you guys want to get lit. You know, you want to party, but at what cost? Are you potentially getting somebody sick? A senior assistant coach or coach. It's very selfish. And you know what? I'm pretty sure head coach, head assistant, or even head board, they definitely got to come down with some punishment.
Yeah, definitely. Anyways, mas puta for Rutgers men's football. Guys, we're coming up on our last segment of the episode.
Yes, sir.
It's our brand new segment. We will be ending our podcast with it. It's our goats of the week.
Goats of the week.
Bah. Well, that's a sheep. That's a sheep, but you know what? It's okay. It's the same shit. Same shit. Whatever.
We'll get
some sound.
We'll get some professional sounds.
Yeah, we'll get some sound. We'll throw some sounds in post production.
Legit sounds.
But all right. So we will every week we will offer our own goat of the week, and we will provide the reason why. This is our first iteration of this segment, so I'm gonna start with my brother KJ. Who is your GOAT of the week?
All right, guys. So my GOAT of the week, it goes to TJ Warren for the Pacers. I'm sorry, I blanked out for a sec. Who scored 53 points in 41 minutes, shot 20 for 29.
Oh man, he had his Tony Delk moment.
Hit 9 3-pointers, shot 75% beyond the arc.
God damn.
And made
that boy good.
made pivotal 3-pointers in the fourth quarter against the 76ers that day. So
I mean, you know, TJ Warren is no bum, but
I thought he was a bum. I'm not
really?
gonna lie.
Well, you know what?
Wasn't impressed.
He went from you thinking he's a bum to your goat of the week.
Yeah, that sounds a
lot. My goat of the week. Yep, that's mine.
All right, Raul, who's your goat of the
week? So this week it was announced that The Rock purchased. Do
you smell
what The Rock is cooking? It doesn't matter if
I don't know. We grew up on this shit, so it's like it's kind of exciting. Let's just
can you guys do the eyebrow?
I'm gonna
do the eyebrow. Wait, let's do the eyebrow for our viewers. Ready?
I think I can do it.
Nope.
Yeah, I used to do that all the time.
Yeah. Well, we all grew up cutting The Rock's promos. That's for sure. But this week he purchased and he announced that he finalized a deal in purchasing the XFL from his former boss, Mr. McMahon.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal, and you know what?
I think it's also him. I guess the group that he's with.
Correct.
And I think his ex-wife.
Yes,
Danny
yes.
Garcia, who is now the first woman to own a professional sports league.
Yes. So, adding to what Kyle was saying, it's a huge deal. It just creates more jobs, more athletes in the football field to potentially get a second opportunity. Young players that doesn't necessarily jump straight into the NFL get more playing time. Coaches, it's just more opportunity. I see this as a huge benefit for everybody. And hey, The Rock is making it big time, not just in the movie scene and the movie field, but he's venturing on to sports, which I'm very excited to see.
Yeah, you know, The Rock, former University of Miami football player as well. You know, I think none of us really have a bad thing to say about The Rock. Even from like stories that people say he's extremely professional, extremely nice. And you know, always on time, which is something rare in Hollywood.
And an exceptional motivational speaker as well.
Yeah, and
one of my favorite guys.
You know, I think that we all root for The Rock. We all wish him well, and we all hope that this endeavor with the XFL, which had a pretty decent buzz, you know, when the season was on. You know, hopefully they can repackage it and evolve it into something that can be more than what Vince McMahon had in mind, you know, you know, maybe. I wish him the best, and I think it's a great move for The Rock. I think it's a great move for sports in general, and you know, hopefully we can get, you know, a decent league out of this, you know,
Agreed.
a decent spring league.
Yeah, excited.
My goat of the week, I'm gonna make it fast, is Adam Silver, because I may have talked shit about this NBA season, and I still kind of believe, I don't really feel it's a real season. I mean, people can disagree with me. That's just my opinion. I do have to praise Adam Silver for organizing, along with the Players Union, to bring the NBA back to the fans, especially in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, something that's ravaging through the country, ravaging through Florida, you know, and just the logistics of planning out the season in the way that they have secured this bubble in the Disney Sports Complex, honestly, is nothing short of astonishing. Because, like I said, sheer logistics. There's so many moving pieces involved, so many people, so many things to deal with, that it's really quite impressive that they were actually even able to get the season started, you know? You know, the season ended abruptly. We all were, you know, shocked. I think we realized this pandemic was real when the NBA was like, we're suspending the season. You guys remember? Remember when they're like, yo, they suspended the season? We're like, shit. And I think that was the first time we all realized, like, oh shit, this is real. Like this coronavirus is real.
Yep. I think if I could recall, it was here at 3308. It was breaking news throughout the whole day. And
yeah, I think it was was it a Wednesday? I think it was like a Wednesday or Tuesday.
It was a random weekday.
Yeah. And it was, of course, the Utah Jazz. That particular game with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell.
It was the Jazz versus Thunder, I think, right?
Yeah, and that is definitely going to go down in history as one of those key moments where,
we're like, oh, shit, for real? Like, they're suspending the season? Because, you know, for a professional sports league to suspend the season, it has to be a real significant, you know, national or international event that has to happen in order for a professional sports league, especially in this day and age with all these moving pieces and parts, to suspend its season. So I commend Adam Silver and the higher ups of the NBA and the Players Association for coming together and organizing this this NBA restart. Like I said, I don't feel 100% this is a real season. I mean, don't get me wrong, these are real games, and I'm happy everything is back, and I'm glad that, you know, the NBA is gonna have some type of end to its regular season and the playoffs. But and considering all the opt-outs, I really, I don't have like that full engagement and full like, oh yeah, this is a real season. But just to be able to put this all together is quite spectacular. And you know what? My goat of the week goes to Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner who is well liked by players, fans, and the community. And he's not without some type of controversy, especially with what happened with the China comments that Daryl Morey engaged in. Something that I feel that the NBA kind of like succumbed to the pressure of the Chinese government. That that what Hong Kong is going through in regards to trying to gain independence and trying to gain regain their democracy. That's for another conversation.
Yeah.
But Adam Silver, really, him and the Players Association and the higher ups at the NBA deserve a lot of credit for getting the NBA back on track and getting some type of normalcy to the masses. Being able to get these games going on and have people take a respite from what's going on in the world. Because it's not easy. We had people that close to us that unfortunately passed away to coronavirus. Raul, your uncle, passed away. In addition to do you have any other relatives that passed away?
No,
But
just my uncle.
And my uncle, actually my mom's uncle, but I call him my uncle Stefan. I want to dedicate this podcast to him. If anybody's listening, Stefan Azarkan was a good man. Family parties, he was always the one to make sure everyone ate, make sure everyone had a drink, everyone had a beer. Very jovial, just a fun person to be around with. And I'm gonna miss him dearly. He was one of those elders in our family that held my Filipino side of the family all together. And he really was a great person. I don't have to elaborate anymore, but if you knew him, and anybody who may know me, who also knew my family or knew my uncle, if you knew him, you knew he was a great guy, and just a person who was always like full of life, and despite having health problems, and with the coronavirus, he was still always the type of guy that to make a party poppin'. We're actually, in the room that, we had a family party in this room right here. And, we have videos from that family party. And, man, he was just typical Uncle Stefan. He was just, like, having fun, dancing, having a good time, And just want to dedicate I want to dedicate the podcast to people that we've lost to coronavirus. We're going to dedicate this to my uncle. We're going to dedicate this to Raul's uncle. Hopefully you're hearing this in heaven and, having a good time. I know my uncle wasn't really into sports or boxing, so I don't know if you would be listening to the podcast. But, do you want to say any words about your uncle before we sign off?
It's really hard to put things into words, especially such a tragic loss with very unexpected pandemic like we're going through now. But my uncle was a very strong guy. He was always built strong mentally, physically. And that's one thing I think I gained from him at a very young age is getting that mature, strong-minded characteristic through him, and just developing a second kind of fatherhood at a very young age. So I thank him for all these qualities that he taught me when I was younger, and I'll definitely dedicate this podcast to him.
And what was his name? His full name?
Mario Basurto.
Mario Basurto.
Mario
Okay.
Basurto.
So we'd like to dedicate this podcast to not only my uncle Stefan, but Raul's uncle
Mario Basurto,
and everybody else who we lost to coronavirus. We want to dedicate this podcast to them. We want to remind our viewers protect yourself. Wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
Sanitize every chance you get, and take care of yourselves and take care of the people around you. We don't know how long we're going to be on this earth. We don't know how long we're going to have our relatives on this earth. We all have certain issues with close relatives that are dealing with medical issues. Raul, with your mom, me and my brother with my grandma. They're going. They have medical issues that they have to deal with, and we have to be careful. In addition, to just the general awareness that we have to provide for ourselves. So again, we dedicate this podcast to the people we lost to coronavirus, and we just want to remind everybody: protect yourselves and care for the people close to you, because you never know when you're gonna lose somebody. We also want to throw a special shout out to our friend Jason Ventura, high school friend of mine, one of my best friends. My brother and Raul have known him for years, a great friend of theirs as well. We want to dedicate this podcast to Jason Ventura and his nephew. I don't want to go into details because I don't know how he feels in regards to his privacy. But Jason is fine. Jason is fine, but he lost someone close to him, his nephew, and we want to dedicate this podcast to his nephew and his family. We can't imagine the things that your family is going through, but dedicating this podcast, doesn't fix anything or doesn't help, but we just want to provide some type of support and commemoration to Jason's family, the Ventura family, and his nephew, Derek. I knew him since he was a baby, and it's really sad, and I feel bad for his mother, who I've known for years, Arnie Ventura. We offer our prayers to your family, and we wish you some type of I know we can't do much, but we offer our support, and we want to dedicate this podcast to you guys as well. Any final thoughts, guys?
No, just thank you for listening in. You could find us at we're YouTube. Hopefully we're gonna upload this to YouTube. Hopefully the Apple podcasts, we're gonna try to add to it. I have a very dear friend who's gonna help us with getting it together. So guys, we're gonna hopefully have our 3 episodes up within by this week. And, we're going to be adding new segments. We're going to hopefully, if we can gather enough listeners, have a Q&A session with, listeners, emailing us questions, and we're going to offer our responses. And, we're just looking forward to doing more episodes and providing you with great content and, make you laugh a little bit, especially during these trying times. Signing off, my name is Kyle Ayala.
KJ.
Raul Navarrete.
We want to say thank you for listening to the Honey Bunches of Goats podcast. Episode 3, we up and out, right?
Yes, sir.
Year.
Year.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Thank you so much.
You got knocked the